evening. Welcome to the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting for Monday, May 14th, 4 p.m. Call to order. So can we have the roll call?
Yes.
Well, we're getting fancy. Determination of quorum. I haven't seen that one.
Renee Plain.
Present.
Jonathan Bolware.
Here.
Karen Aboud.
Here.
Sandra Nagel and Jesse Dami are absent. We have a quorum.
All right, can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, any public comment? No public comment. We'll move on for possible action approval of minutes from the April 9th, 2018 CTA board meeting.
I move to approve the minutes of the April 9th CTA meeting as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Possible action adoption of the agenda. Does anyone guys see any reason why we would go out of order in the agenda? Anything? All right. We will accept the agenda as printed. Possible action to approve the adjusted CTA fiscal year 2018 budget report. Chris, you're up.
Sorry about that. So this budget report is for accounting period 9, which is March of 2018. We're at 75% of fiscal year 18. The room tax payments received are as of March 31st, which would be your February room tax, basically. So our revenue is at $1,584,930.56, which is 74.3% of the year. The revenue is actually 2 months behind because we're looking at February revenue rather than March, even though this is the month of March. So we're doing pretty good there. Page 3. We have our intergovernmental expenditures are at $206,356.17, which is only 28% of the year, but we don't do all the field maintenance payments and interlocals with the city every month. We just kind of send them over quarterly or biannually. So those will get much bigger next month.
Hey, Chris, I can't remember the fiscal year, the projection. When do you guys update that projection?
I've been updating it the last couple months as we've been going along. You'll see the next one's going to be pretty close to nailed down for the end of the fiscal year because we're doing the augmentation this month. So salaries and wages were at $411,917.51, which is 64% of the year. And the next page.
I'm sorry, one more question on the projections. So when we do the augmentation, these projections, are these projections pretty accurate of what we're going to do on the 23rd, or do you think they're going to change a lot at that time?
The 23rd is fiscal year 19's budget. And then we'll do a budget augmentation in the end of June. So our June meeting, you're going to see what you're going to see in the augmentation. Okay. So page 4 of 5, our services and supplies totals at $520,869.05. Most everything's still within that under 75%, except for the insurance, which we've paid that for the year, unless we have a special insurance cert we need for an event, which I doubt we will. And then the special events is up at 80%, which because we pretty much have covered everything already, that we've only got a month left. So the operating supplies, that 84% that's in red, that's because of the $30,000 that went to the Da Vinci. That'll get cleaned up at the end of the year when we do all the accounting with finance. So that's pretty much where that's at, unless you guys have questions on anything.
I move to approve the adjusted fiscal year budget report as presented through March of 2018.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Possible action to approve the CTA Statement of Accounts, Payable Checks, and P-Card Report for March 2018.
So I have a correction on this one. In the staff summary, it says CTA Board will review an account activity statement for accounts payables checks for March 2018 totaling $51,303.68 and P-card purchases for March of 2018 totaling $12,248.31 and making a determination of whether they approve the statement. The correction I have is on this statement, I'll go over it when we get to it, is there's $1,434.93 of arts and culture expenses that are actually in the city's finances now, not ours. But I'll go through it. So our ending total for P-cards for March of 2018 will actually be $10,813.38. I'll get to that later. So on the accounts payable checks for March, page 2, we have, I'm just going to hit the larger ones. The P-cards for February 5th through March 2nd, which we went over last month, the payment for that is $7,370.67. The next one down is the Capital City Gun Club. That's the Gun Club brings in a trap shoot tournament for kids. They have 210 shooters at that event, and we sponsored the lunches for the kids. One of their requirements is the kids are required to have a parent with them, so they they get a pretty good attendance, and we get a lot of people coming and staying the night for that. The next one down is our March rent. Down a little further, we have the Konica, which is the printer. The first one's $5,725.05. That's for all of our additional printing outside of our contract from November 26th through February 25th.
Hey, Chris, real quick, is that rent payment, is that, I can't remember, is that pretty consistent, 48, or did it go up?
It did go up just recently, just a little bit. Because our contract, I think it started in September. And then, so it went up back in September, I think, but I'm not positive. I'd have to double check.
What is it, how many years?
5 years. So we've got, I think.
It's been 5 years? How long we moved?
I think no, the contract is for 5 years. I think we have probably 2.5 years left. Okay. But I'll have to double check that. Yeah. And it did go up a little from the original because we added on that backspace for the big printer and everything like that. So that went up a while back, though. So back to Konica. The next one down is the maintenance agreement for the Duplo, which is the cutter. And then we've got the February and the March payments for the lease on the printer and the cutter. Next one down is Nevada Momentum Photography Content Writing through February 23rd of 18. And that one includes a lot of photography for Chinese New Year's photos, Farm to Fork event photos, photo adjustments for virtual mapping, that mapping thing that Kyle's working on with the Parks Department. And then they're starting to work on the Visitor's Guide number 4 now, so that's got some stuff in there as well. And then the other big one we have on there is $4,999.99. That's that Sierra Nevada Media Group targeted internet ads that Kyle's doing. He's hit on it a few times in the last few months that I don't know why it's a penny less than it's been, but that's it for payable checks. Any questions on the checks? Okay. So this is on the P cards. There's the charges for Mark, his P card. Some of them are for us because of their grants, and some of them are going through city finance. So this report, and I didn't catch it when I did it, the ones with the item number starting with the 295 are actually through the city, and so each of those is the total of the 1,000 something that I took off. The ones that are marks that don't have descriptions next to them, those are for the grant, Big Read, the NEA Big Read grant. So we are still having those expenses in our accounting because we will be receiving the funds because the grant was made through us. So we're working with the finance office to keep all that straight. So as far as these, the first one is $991.67, which is the mobile app licensing for March. Reach Local, that's another one of those marketing things that Kyle's got going every month. There's 3 of those on this statement. Not too many big ones there. On page 4, That first one, 750, that's one of Mark's. The next one down is 531.96 for Southwest. That's, we sent James down to Vegas for a robotics convention to see if that was something that we could bring to Carson, and I think he hit on it last month. Probably talked about it last month, maybe the month before. $620 to Classic Cinema. That's part of the NEA Big Read grant. Another Reach Local. The next one down is $515.80. That's part of the grant, but I don't have the information on what that's for yet. I put in a call to Rachel, and I'll see what happens with that one. But that'll all be covered by the grant. The next couple of big ones are the 1,303 and the 1,000. That's the lodging for the Sea Otter Classic that Kyle and Mark and Joel go to, or not Mark, James and Joel went to for with Epic Rides for their marketing for that event. And then the next one down is $1,438.50 for the Spooner Lake half-page ad in the Tahoe Weekly magazine. And I think that's pretty much it for the big ones.
Question for you. There's two charges to Southwest for $531.96. Is it a duplicate?
No, the second one there is Mark's. And I talked to Rachel on that one, and she says she believes it's a speaker that Mark brought in for the NEA Big Grant, but I don't have a receipt on that one, so I'm not sure. I can get that for next meeting if you want.
It was just weird because it's the
I thought the same thing,
amount.
exactly. So
yeah.
That's what I did. I went, wait a minute, but one of them was on Mark's card, one of them was on James's card. Any questions? Yay.
I move to approve the CTA account activity statement of accounts payable checks and the P-card charges with the adjusted P-card charges as discussed for March of 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. So non-action items. You're up, Chris, with the transient occupancy report up first.
Okay, so the transient lodging tax report for March. We're down quite a bit from last year. We are at $1,164,937, which is down $328,000 from last year. But we're pretty comparable to 2016, which was a non-legislative year. And I did the calculations by hand. The top five, comparing 18 and 16, is that we're still up 21%. We're up 142,000 there. The top 6 through 13, comparing 18 and 16, is 20% up. RVs was down a little bit for the 18 to 16 comparison, down $2,000, and then the remaining was up $378, so it was up 3%. So I think we're doing okay comparable without the legislative, and I think FEMA was in town last year as well, so I think it made a big difference. As far as the budget's concerned, we're still in the ballpark. We didn't make any big adjustments there, so we're still good there. The calendar year, we're down 11% from 17, but for the fiscal year, we're up 17%. The RevPAR, it's down as well, which kind of makes sense if we're down 21% for the top 5, 30% for the top 6 through 13. We have one property that still has some remodel going on, but it seemed like everybody was pretty much across the board down a little bit for the year. So the trailing 12 were at 21,415. Excuse me, 21,415,832.56, which is up 19% from last year at 17,953,000. And then we're up 33% from 2016 for the trailing 12. The occupancy on the back. The top 5 is at 62% occupied for March. The top 6 through 13 was at 41%, RVs at 14%, and the remaining is at 8%. which is still down a little bit overall from 2017.
Yeah, I think last year was legislative, but it also was a great year for them. It was a strong year, so it'd be hard
Right.
to match some of those numbers coming out.
Yeah, so between
I think
remodels.
especially March, if I remember right, I think March was really big for everybody, so.
Yeah, and I
it'd be a
really
tough
didn't have a lot of
comparison.
time to call everybody and say, hey, what's going on? But, kind of the gist of it between the legislature and everything. So I can do further research if you guys want, but.
I'm sure it's between the flood that happened and FEMA being in town, and then legislature
Kind of makes it.
explains it.
Yeah, but overall, the year's still looking pretty good. Any questions? Okay, cool. Then Kyle is not available today. He did give James the marketing report, but because we don't have it available for the public to see, we're going to skip that one. And James is going to go ahead and talk about his events update.
So we have, this is the first time we're actually going to do a current state of tournaments that we have this year. So far we have 25 sports tournaments that consist of baseball, soccer, softball, swimming, and wrestling tournaments. And these are all specifically tournaments that the CTA has endorsed. So it doesn't include other tournaments and things like that that the city does on their own.
James, so that's 25. Some of them have happened already, and
No.
it's 25 for the year.
Yeah,
There's
for
25
the entire year. For the entire year, including in that some of the ones that have already occurred. There's also car shows and races that we have endorsed. Carson Cruisers, Rockabilly Riot, Epic Rides, and the Outlaw Flat Track races are also events that we have endorsed in the past or have endorsed for this year. In addition to one cultural event, which is the Nevada Day Powwow that we are endorsing. Nevada Day weekend. So those are like the major endorsed events, just to bring you guys up to speed on what we have decided to endorse. And so with that in mind, I had to go and consider where we have opportunities to expand on not just tournaments but events in general. Was able to meet with Parks and Recs department and kind of hash out the availability of some of these facilities that we have, and also how we can work together to not just improve the current events that we have or what we can do to bring in new ones. And we've identified 3 locations that we could take advantage of, and we decided on these locations specifically because they would help us with our shoulder season. That was one of the focuses that when Joel asked me to take this position was to help out with the shoulder season, which is our October through March time slots. And in a lot of these cases, weather's, storms and whatnot, in that time of year, it just makes it difficult for outdoor recreational events. So we decided on the Multi-Athletic Center, the Community Center, specifically the Bob Baldrick Theater, in addition to maybe opportunities at the Marvtech Sierra Pavilion. Jennifer at Parks and Rec were really open to helping with expanding on the sports tournament aspect of this. But we are also, one of the goals is to also expand outside of sports tournaments, and that's to try to bring in other events that we could do indoor. The charge that Chris was mentioning when we talked about that I went to Las Vegas to check out a robotics tournament. It's part of FIRST, which is one of the major robotics organizations nationwide. It was their a regional championship that they were holding down in Las Vegas. They do a regional one already here in Carson City at one of the middle schools, and so it was just an educational piece trying to determine if we have the capacity to host something like that. So it was a great opportunity to network and to work with some of the few presidents that are down there. So that was a great opportunity for us to do that. Part of the goals for this position is also to maintain and strengthen relationships with the current event organizers. which requires me to not only get to know them, but what they do, but also attend their events, and ultimately to evaluate these events, to determine the impact of them, to see if they are something that we should continue to endorse, and continue that working relationship. Through the past several months, since I've taken this position, I've been evaluating the ones that I'm most familiar with, and one of those is the Bulls and Bronx event. They bring in a one-day event that they do on a Saturday, where they will, have a big rodeo. And I've talked to sponsors. I've talked to lodging properties, just to kind of get some statistics on the impact of this event. And after much consideration, this is one of the first events that we won't be endorsing. It's coming up this coming month in June. He's still going to do it. We will still help him with marketing, obviously, because that gives us an avenue to market. But in terms of endorsing his events, I made the decision to no longer endorse that event.
Will you explain, just for people to remember, when we endorse, what is that? What's the benefit of endorsing as opposed to not endorsing?
Yeah, so we will cover the cost of a facility to bring in an event into town. It's part of the percent that we give to the city. It's part of that interlocal agreement. And the city will automatically take the funds out of that interlocal agreement to cover costs to help with some of these events. So
when we endorse, we'll pick up those costs.
Right.
When we don't, we won't, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right, and so just looking at this was just one of the examples where the Bulls and Bronx events wasn't something that was beneficial to us as a CTA to endorse. There wasn't a big return in terms of not just heads and beds, but just overall general marketing for us. It just wasn't there. It just didn't fit the criteria of what we were hoping to. And we've been working with him for 3 years on this project. So we feel comfortable saying that, after 3 years, it's just not working out. So, and we'll continue to evaluate events and tournaments as we move forward to kind of weed out or see what we can do to expand or to improve on an event that we're currently endorsing. But all of that is important for us to kind of get a measurable return for us.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are you also looking at things like dog shows and horse shows, of the things of that nature? Because that definitely brings people in, and they stay for several days when they do that. So.
Right, and that's actually the last part of that is, when it comes to events, we have the tendency to always try and pull someone from somewhere else, and so the idea is maybe we should take the time to grow something locally, because the one-off events where, for example, we have a guy by the name of Tony. He's bringing the Rally North America car ride. He's already working with one of the lodging properties here in town. They will be here for 2 nights for an event, but then they won't be back for another year. They're going to find another location to where they can do a rally to, and we'll continue to work with people like that want to bring things to Carson City. But I think our bread and butter is and our sustainability is growing things to where there are yearly events, kind of like the ones that we've already listed. Part of the criteria for that is we need to be able to measure the potential of some of these organizers or organizations. A lot of our local grown events and organizers, they have ties to regional organizations, and some of them even have ties to national organizations. So it's just a matter of helping them get bigger at what they do, which will eventually help us with what our goals are. And so that's one of the options. And obviously the other option is to continue to pursue other event organizers or organizations to bring their event to Carson City, similar to what we did with the Rockabilly Riot. We were able to pull them from Reno to bring their car show to Carson City. So that's the vision, that's the overall picture. I would like to hear if you have any feedback or any suggestions on some of the things that you would like for me to report. At this point, it's just a matter of building a database of contacts, events, organizers, and just trying to build from there. So, questions?
Good work. Sounds like you're off to a good start.
Thank you.
So the next item is future agenda items. Do you guys have anything you want to see on your next agenda?
What's on June's agenda, do we know, other than our normal stuff that we go through? Are
I
you aware
think
of,
Joel's working on something. I don't know if it's a preview of strategic plan, or I'm not really sure what he's got going on.
You're trying to
but
squeeze something in?
He's got a surprise for you.
Well, because Epic Rides will be on the heels of that meeting, pretty much. Actually, I won't be here for that meeting.
Okay.
So, but perhaps it might be just a good update because it'll be starting that week.
Okay.
Probably, I mean, if we're going to make, if his plan is to make, or have the board make a decision on major strategic stuff, I'm not sure, I haven't talked to him.
Yeah, I'm not
He
sure
may
if
wanna
that's going to
wait
be
till
ready. The
Karen's done with-
strategic plan might be.
That's something he
but-
needs a full board for. And actually, quite frankly, maybe it's a new board. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not probably something I want to decide, or I don't know how you feel, Renee, my last meeting about.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know, but certainly Karen should be a part of that. So I think a discussion's good, and then probably for July,
Yeah.
some
Okay.
decisions, major decisions. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and like
my-
I said, I'm not certain. I know he's working on something, but I'm not certain if that's what it is, but he,
We'll get to him before
Right.
why don't you talk to me before we post the last agenda for June?
and then, so the next is our upcoming meetings. The next one is Wednesday, May 23rd, which that'll be our fiscal year 19 budget hearing. And then the regular budget, or our regular meeting will be 6/11.
So the hearing means here, right?
Yes.
They're both here
Yep.
in this room. Okay, any other board comments or announcements or requests for information? Any other public comment? Seeing none. So possible action to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.